Welcome to 8-Bit Entertainment. Captain Paul here with my co-host Fajardo. How's it going, Fajardo?
I'm good. I'm good.
We are going to be bringing you a new podcast slash show called The Locker Room. Here at The Locker Room, we're going to be mainly focusing on NHL content. And for you that are following the sports world, there is a hectic NHL playoffs going on right now. Unfortunately, if you look at my hat, that team is eliminated. If you look at Fajardo's hat, that team is still in play. I call shenanigans, I call rigged, but that's just me. So this show is going to be mainly hockey focused. We are going to have other shows regarding various different sports probably going along, football, baseball, but let's just get right into the NHL playoffs. This has been a very, very hectic playoffs, and since my team is eliminated, how are you feeling about these playoffs, Fajardo?
Honestly, this has been a really good playoff. I guess
Mm.
because of the competition level, right? You have all the teams had high quality players. Everybody has a chance. Like there's nobody who's like a super dominant team that you're like, oh, that's the team. That's the team to beat. That's the one team to beat. No, every team is a team to beat coming into these playoffs. You know what I mean? So you look at the first round of the playoffs, right? And you had teams that have so much experience versus teams that have probably no experience but have a lot of youth and grew a lot this year. You have teams that are kind of like a mix and match, but they found their groove going into the playoffs and got maybe just made the playoffs, but they
Yeah.
still have a chance of winning because of their competitive nature, whatnot. Like some of the teams that were eliminated early from the playoffs, those teams are just in shambles. You look at a team like Buffalo that showed promise a few years back. Now they're just scrambling to even put up a roster that can compete. You know, those teams obviously they were eliminated out. All those joking teams were eliminated before the playoffs.
Mm.
And then the teams that all made it, I mean, like I said, a lot of good teams. Nobody's overwhelming or feared in such a way. Maybe the one team that showed in the first round, Colorado.
Right.
That might be the only team that came in there as like, hey, we're the big dogs. Come see us. But they still have a lot to prove. So we'll see how that turns out.
It has been a very contentious playoff season, a lot of controversy as well.
Mhm.
And, speaking of controversy, we're going to start with our first playoff series. Let's talk about the Colorado Avalanche versus the St. Louis Blues.
Mhm.
Now, as of this recording, on what is it, 23rd as of right now? Yep, the
Yep.
23rd. The Colorado Avalanche are 2-1 up on the series against the Blues. Now, Kadri of the Colorado Avalanche was collided with the Colorado defenseman into Binnington of the St. Louis Blues goaltender. And essentially, Binnington will now be out for the series. And there was a lot of controversy saying that Kadri has a track record, that was intentional. Did you see the play at all of Kadri going into Binnington, Fajardo?
I actually did. I did look at it. I mean, in my opinion, it's just one of those things that happen. I mean, outside of this context, right? I just feel like the NHL is looking for ways to get softer, and this is one of those examples. Like, listen, it was a hard play to the net. There was nothing malicious from what I saw. Like he drove hard to the net. If you see a loose puck, what do they tell you? Go until they
Oh, did
blow the whistle, right?
Yep.
Kaji just went. He tried to get the puck. He saw it's loose. I mean, this is playoff hockey, boys. Like you got to figure this out. You can't be calling something like that and then say, oh, there was militia. Like, look at the play. He drove hard to the net, and as he was getting close to the front of the net, he got pushed, which in
Yeah.
terms, he went right into the goalie. That's his fault that the guy pushed him? No, he's driving hard to the net. He's trying to get a loose puck. It's the playoffs. He's trying to win.
Yeah, I definitely would have to agree with you, not to cut you off, that I feel like we're getting very soft now in the NHL. The fans are getting softer, I should say, because when you watch that play, and listen, Kadri has earned a reputation for a reason. He has done some boneheaded shit, I think, 3 years in a row to get kicked off a playoff series twice in a row in
Mm-hmm.
Toronto, and then this first year in with Colorado, he gets thrown out of a series because Kadri can't rein himself in. But if you watch this play, there's contact with a Colorado defender into Binnington. He's going for a rebound. There's no ill intent in my manner right there. There's just, in my opinion, there's no ill intent. He's just trying to dig and get that goal because in playoff hockey, it's harder to score. And, it's just, it seems like the slander has gotten a little bit ridiculous watching this. Like, if anyone who knows and has played hockey or even just watches hockey religiously understands that was just a hockey play. He's going for a rebound. Unfortunate Binnington's out, but there was no malicious intent there, at least in my opinion. And it kind of brought into this conversation where people thought at the press conference afterwards, right, where Binnington probably knew he was out for the playoffs, out for the series. He threw a water bottle at Kadri, right? And you had some people trying to say that was a racist gesture by Binnington. And I just listen. I get it. People, emotions are on a high level because of sensitivity. But like, if we're gonna say a water bottle throw after this dude just getting injured and out for a series is racist, like I think we're just crossing the line here. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not condoning Binnington throwing a temper tantrum, but he's known for that. But let's not make every single action someone takes to call it racist. You know what I mean? It's just a little foolishness.
Yeah, 100%. I really feel like, again, NHL is getting soft. Stuff outside is getting soft. Everything is something that offends somebody. Like, listen, let's stop being sensitive. This is a physical sport. There's going to be a lot of things that look bad, that may not be bad. There may be no intent, but it may be bad. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's so many things that can happen. And, Binnington throwing a water bottle at Kadri, to call it racist, that means that the person that said that initially had a racist thought. It has nothing to do with the players because the players did not mention anything about race. They didn't say anything along those lines. There was no, I didn't see anything that maliciously pandered to color. You know what I'm saying?
No.
I honestly think it was a very high competitive goalie who just realized I got knocked out. And, in any sport where you're able to knock somebody down, what happens to the person that gets knocked down? They get right back up and they get in your face, right?
Yeah.
And I think that was one of those things. Like, by the time they were doing the conference, like the press conference or whatever, he was just so mad. Binnington was so mad that he's like, I heard this guy's out there. He went out there and, instead of physically attack him, he just threw a water bottle towards him. He didn't hit him because, let's be honest, if he wanted to hit him, I'm pretty sure he could hit him. He's sitting in the wide open. He just threw a water bottle at him, right? Yeah. In disgust or anger because of the situation that occurred. But I don't think it was anything racist.
No, it just, it was interesting. I saw that on social media start like some weirdos and, in my opinions, people that are just looking to race bait, try to pull that narrative. Now, why people think this is intentional for Kadri, to be fair to them, Kadri has a track record of doing extremely stupid shit. Like I said, 2 years in a row with Toronto against Boston, first year there with Colorado. The reason why he got traded from Toronto was that stupid actions he would take.
Right.
His first year with Colorado, we did something pretty stupid.
Yep. But, he did it last year. He did something last year. He hit somebody or he laid out. Who was it that he laid out? He laid somebody out on I
forget the exact.
Blues.
Yeah. I forget the exact kind of.
Falk.
Yeah, that's right. It was Falk. And
he caught him not looking. I mean, what is one of the first things they teach you? I mean, I've played hockey to a collegiate level. You've played hockey. You know what I mean? Like, one of the things they teach you as a coach is always be aware of your surroundings. One, for your stick, and two, so you don't get hit. If he hit somebody who wasn't looking, he just taught that guy a lesson. I'm just saying. That's my opinion.
Well, I think, and not to go, we can actually have this conversation in a subject separate because I think this would be a good conversation. I feel like hockey players these days expose themselves to too much injuries. Like, they put their back to the play and they'll kind of expose themselves and put themselves in sensitive spots where they can really end up dinged up. Where when we were taught, me and you both played at a pretty high level, you never put your body in a situation where you could end up paralyzed. You always try to do shoulder to shoulder. never have your back to a player, like never have your back facing out the ice with your head towards the boards. Like that was one of the first
Exactly.
things I was ever taught. That's just basic common sense, in my opinion.
Yep.
Getting back into this series, though, I think with Binnington gone, right, you had the Avalanche win Game 1 in overtime, 3-2 against the Blues. Game 2, you had the Blues win 4-1, so it was 1-1. Now the third game, when Binnington gets dinged up into it, Colorado wins 5-2.
Hmm.
Binnington has been on a tear.
Yep.
Binnington has been one of the best goalies in the playoffs, and Binnington is known as a money goalie. Binnington necessarily doesn't always perform in regular season because ever since that big run he took to win his first Stanley Cup, he has never nowhere matched those regular season numbers. He's around a 910 to 908 save percentage. But this postseason, he has turned it up and he has played well. He's a very good money goalie.
Hmm.
That being said, they now turn to Husso, who has struggled mightily in the playoffs. He had a good regular season. I thought the only way that the Blues have a chance in this series was if Binnington stole them this series because
Hmm.
Colorado, I would have to say all their forwards, most of their defensemen are far superior to the St. Louis Blues. And where they had the edge was in goaltending because
Hmm.
Kemper can be pretty solid. Francouz can be pretty solid, but at times, Kemper is kind of injury prone and can be kind of shaky at times. And Francouz is very inexperienced and can be shaky. So I thought they'd have that kind of advantage in net. But now with Binnington down, I don't see this series going to 7. I think that,
Oh no,
it.
no. I agree with you on that. Bennington was one of the key parts of their game that they needed to win this series. I mean, just if you look at the offensive power that Colorado has, right?
Mhm.
You need someone that can make some spectacular saves, and I'm not talking about all the times, right? I'm not talking, like
Yeah.
he's gonna hold you in for 50 saves, 60 saves, 72 saves, or something along those lines. But he's gonna be there for key moments. Definitely has
Yeah.
to steal you the game. It's one of those situations where um, he had to be the wall, right? And
Absolutely.
without that wall, it can be over, right? It can be,
Yeah.
but we all know what it is right now. Right? It's playoff time.
Absolutely. So
You know,
I'll have to say this. I think it's the Avalanche in I think the Avalanche in 5. What do you think?
I say Avalanche in 6.
Okay.
I think that St. Louis does have a pretty good defensive core. Their
Hmm.
offense, as funny as it sounds, like individually they have a lot of good offensive players, but I think they have more role players, right?
Yeah,
So
I agree with that.
if they're able to just like slow down Colorado, right, and just keep it to like simple, maybe not too many quick transition plays, and just slow them down overall, they have a chance. And now we go to the wild card, which is now the goalie, Huso, right? He's going to
Yeah,
come in. He hasn't performed well, but sometimes this is where heroes are made. Um,
yeah.
if he can play like Binnington, or he can stand out and really
Hold his
just
own.
stop. Yeah, just stop the shots. If he can just stop the shots, because Colorado shoots from anywhere. That's what makes them
Yeah,
so deadly. They can shoot from anywhere, anyone. As long as he has a clear sight of what's going on in front of him, and he can make those stops, they'll have a really good chance and try to avoid a lot of those rebounds. Because once the puck goes towards the net, Colorado loves to just hover and wait for the crumbs so they can eat.
absolutely. I think like for me, my closing thoughts here is Nathan McKinnon's got to show us that everyone wants to consider him as like one of the top 3 players in the world.
Hmm.
And if he wants to be considered in that higher echelon, he needs to start producing and carry this team to a Stanley Cup. This is the year with all the talent they have. He needs to win it in my eyes. This
Yep.
is
Yep.
this is his year.
Yeah.
Now,
On the same token,
mhm,
McCarr needs to continue performing, because he's definitely stepped his game up during these playoffs, and
mm,
he's showing that he can play defense and offense all at the same time, and that's giving every team trouble. You know what I
absolutely,
mean?
yeah,
Because sometimes, and during the regular season, he was either offensive and his defense was okay, or his defense would be like strong, but he wasn't there offensively.
Yeah.
That was kind of a struggle, but it looks like going right into the playoffs, he found that groove where he has like just the right amount of both, and now he's definitely one of the guys that's going to have to help carry there.
Absolutely. Now, moving on to the other series in the Western Conference, we have
The Western
Calgary.
Shootout.
Yep, the Western Shootout, pretty much the touchdown city.
Yes,
Um,
sir.
you had you have the Calgary Flames against the Edmonton Oilers. Now, Edmonton's up in this series as of right now, 2-1. Flames took the first game 9-6, as low-scoring football game. Oilers took the game 2, 5-3. And then game 3, the Oilers won 4-1, which is probably the closest to an actual hockey score in the series is game 3.
Yeah.
So I watched quite a bit of this series. I enjoy watching these games later when I'm kind of editing or doing whatever. And the first game had me shocked. Like that was,
that was a lot. Yeah.
I couldn't blame the goalies because the defense was fucking atrocious on both sides, like really bad. So I can't blame the goaltending on that. But I will say this. I feel like Mike Smith has outperformed Markstrom in the series. And that was one of the Achilles heels of the Oilers that people had in. Like, can Mike Smith keep this up? He's around 40 years old. Does he have it in him? And Mike Smith has always been those hot and cold goalies, right? Like he's very streaky. So when he's hot, he's hot. But when he's cold, he's cold. Like you could score on him from the red line when he's cold. Markstrom has had a phenomenal season ever since he got his last season in Vancouver. Since the last couple seasons in Calgary, he's been, you can say, arguably in the top 10, top 5 of goaltenders, however you want to, line it up. But I'm not saying Markstrom's played awful, but Mike Smith has, played a lot better than Markstrom in this series, and it's kind of showing. And it's admittedly surprising because I thought after that first series, right, where it shouldn't have gone as far as it did. Can Mike Smith pull this off? Can Mike Smith stand a test of time? And it really kind of showed that, hey, the guy still got a little bit of game left in him. What would you say is kind of your main takeaway from this Calgary and Edmonton series?
I agree with what you said about Mike Smith. I think that he definitely looks a lot more focused. The first round looked like he was questioning a few parts of his game, maybe miss some things. He was probably doing too much. When you're too focused and you're trying to do everything, and it's a team game. There's only so much you can do, and I think that he's come to terms with that, and it's allowing his game to shine a little bit better. But as far as the team, the Oilers definitely have a chip on their shoulder. They've been said to be one of the best teams for various years coming into this year, and they've always underperformed getting into the playoffs. Connor McDavid. You're said to be the best player on the planet, right? You have highlight reels for days.
Yeah.
But if you don't do anything now, you're the next Iverson, right?
Oof.
Great player, no chips.
Oof.
Right? So
that's a painful one, man. I love it.
It's the truth. We all love Connor McDavid. Look at the things he does, the highlights. He's even torched. I hate to say it, right? He torched the Rangers for that highlight reel where it was on easy mode. He turned it from hard mode and then said, "All right, I'm gonna go score." Turns it on easy mode, walks through the entire team and puts it on Shesterkin, who's one of the Vezina finalists. If you're doing that. And he wasn't the only one. He did that to various teams throughout this season. Same type of play, same type of highlight, right? But if you're doing that all season and now we're in the playoffs and, you're performing well, but let's say you tank the rest, you lose a series. Yeah, now you got to start really looking at yourself and saying, you know what? Is it the team? Is it me? Maybe he needs to, if he does, I say, if he doesn't accomplish anything further, like getting a chip this year, he may need to really consider a change of team.
So,
go ahead.
This is the one thing I'll say. Connor McDavid is a marvelous talent and is probably the best player in the world right now. How you quantify that? If you're going to say offensively, definitely. I think he's gotten better in his defensive game this season from when I've
Mm-hmm.
seen him. He's been a little bit better in his own end. But one of the knocks against McDavid was he didn't play great two-way hockey, right?
Mm-hmm.
But he is phenomenal. You can easily say top 2 in the league right now, and he's improving. The one knock, the one thing I can't knock him, excuse me, for is that, to be fair to McDavid, the Oilers are a circus. It's a walking clown show. They have had number 1 picks year after year after year, and they squandered a lot of that talent. Like
Mm-hmm.
the Connor McDavid, if he had a reliable defense, reliable secondary scoring, he's got some help now with Draisaitl. Yamamoto during the season, he kind of, it seems like he's turning the leaf. You have some guys there that I think are quality hockey players. I just think, like, on the back end with the defense, even right now, I think there's got to be an upgrade next season. And the goaltending situation where you had Mike Smith, who's like 40 years old, or I think he's 41 at this point, and then you have Koskinen, who has been he's just been a train wreck this year.
Mm-hmm.
It just, I can't lay a lot of the blame at McDavid's fate because there's only so much you can do as one player. Hockey is
Mm-hmm.
one of the ultimate team sports. Like if
Yep.
if it was just purely on talent alone, Pittsburgh would have probably more cups, right? Because you have Crosby and Malkin, and the Penguins won a few cups.
Yep.
But to say that, I can't really just put that all on McDavid's feet. And I think he's done well. I think he's turning the corner, and he had a fantastic goal in Game 3 where he just, like, guy tried to bump him off the puck, just goes around him, just patiently on Markstrom, and just, like,
Yeah.
snipes it past him. And
Yep.
he shows the top end talent that he does have.
Mm-hmm.
What I think that if the Oilers are going to be a contender, Mike Smith needs to keep playing like he's the 28-year-old Mike Smith, like he's doing now, and not the 41-year-old that can look like he lives in a beach ball every day. Mike
Yeah.
Smith has reversed the clock and has played extremely well. And you have the Oilers defenseman playing some somewhat inspired defense, because some of those games, they're a little too high scoring for my taste. Um, what would you
That brings me. No, that
go ahead?
actually, what you just said exactly brings me back to the point. Allen Iverson, right? Great talent by himself, right? They never really put a good enough team around him, right?
Yeah.
So, had he gone to a team that was a little more accomplished, granted, I know that nowadays it's common for a superstar to go find a team that suits him best and all that stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
But back in those days, you were
No, you
loyal
stuck it out.
to right. You were loyal to the point where you ride or die with your team, right? And is that Connor's mentality? Is he going to ride or die? I mean, he seems like he loves Edmonton. Everything about Edmonton. He's 100% an Edmonton guy. But so was Wayne Gretzky at one point, right? And he won his chips there, but he made a change and he won it elsewhere as well. I'm just saying that if
Well, Gretzky got traded, and he cried when he got traded. He didn't want to.
he did win.
Well, yeah, he did win, but the NHL wanted a superstar. Listen,
A superstar, yeah, in Hollywood, right? Pretty much.
Like, yeah, like, let's be honest here. Like, he made those Kings teams relevant, and I get what you're saying. I actually do agree. If McDavid doesn't win in the next season or two, I would be considered, like, hey, like, you know what, man, it's just not working here. Maybe ship me off somewhere else. Now, he's got a massive contract for NHL standards, so that'd be difficult to move. But a lot of teams would definitely be willing to accept that cap hit for pretty much the best player on the planet.
Exactly.
So getting into
I just feel
right?
they have a good enough team. I really do just feel they have a good enough team to win it this year. All they have, everybody just has to show up. That's it.
I wish Smith is playing well. I wish they had a little bit better goaltending depth, and I wish that they had just another piece at defense to be a little bit more
I can see
stable.
that, yeah.
I think that's what they're missing.
Cool.
So Oilers are up 2-1 in this series. I did the first prediction. What do you think of this prediction? Who do you think is going to win and how many games?
I say, I definitely like McDonough. I like Johnny Gaudreau as well. I like both of these teams. The Chuck, I like the little chirping here and there, but I think that Edmonton pulls it out in I want to say 6 or 7. I think it's going to be one of those like really gritty fights. That game 6 to determine whether they go to a game 7. Yeah, that's going to be the one. That's going to be the game to watch. That's going to make or break the rest of this series, obviously.
Yeah.
Whoever, but I think Edmonton is strong enough to pull this one out against them, just because they have equal firepower on both sides. But defensively, I think that as long as they stay the course that they've shown so far throughout the playoffs, that with Mike Smith back there and the current defensive core, they'll be fine. If they have an injury, then it kind of just goes up at flip a coin and figure out who's going to go to the next round.
So I'll have to say this. I agree with you. I think it's going to be the Oilers, but I think it's 7 games. There's the Battle of Alberta. It has been a very entertaining series, a little high scoring. And I think it's going to go back and forth, back and forth. I think Markstrom is going to come into form here in a few of his games. I think there's going to be some close games. I don't see too many more blowouts, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's like another, 5-4 game or something of that ilk, just because of how I would say poor some of the defense can be by these teams at times. But yeah, I think this is McDavid's year. I think he's got to prove that he can carry the load, can drive a team to a Stanley Cup final. So yeah, I'm going to say Oilers in 7, just because Mike Smith's on a roll. I believe what he's doing. I've always been kind of a Mike Smith fan, and I just think overall the top end talent for Oilers are going to be too much for the Flames.
Yeah, I mean, I think Duncan Keith is going to play a big role.
And he's got that Stanley Cup. And he's got that Stanley Cup credentials.
Right. So he has the experience. I think he'll take some of the guys that don't have the experience, calm them down and say, hey, just focus on right now. Don't worry about what's happened in the past. Don't worry about what may happen. We're going to worry about what's going on right now. And if he has the power and leadership, which I think he does in that locker room, I think he settles down the defense and they're going to win this.
I'd have to agree. Now, changing gears here, going to the Eastern Conference, we have a Florida on Florida crime series here. We have Florida versus Tampa Bay. And Tampa Bay, or I should say salary cap exemption Lightning, are up 3-0 against Florida. And I thought this series out of all of them, and mind you, I thought we were going to see great hockey. I'm disappointed. Honestly, I am absolutely disappointed with the Florida Panthers and how they are just caving, and they just look like they do not belong on the same ice surface as the Tampa Bay Lightning. They didn't
show up. You're right. They didn't show up.
It's been a disappointing series. It's been very boring. Besides probably game 2, it's not been a good watch. You had the Lightning win 4-1 game 1, 2-1 in game 2, and then 5-1 in game 3. Bobrovsky, I can't blame him at fault because the defense for Florida has been kind of meh. But Bobrovsky's kind of caved. You have a real question of maybe turning to Spencer Knight to kind of change something up in Florida, kind of maybe motivate the guys. But Tampa Bay just looks like the far superior team. They just do. They look like you got Kucherov, you got Stamkos, you got Hedman, you got Vasilevsky. You got so much talent in Tampa, and it just seems like Tampa Bay was fucking around and being like, yeah, we're not taking the regular season too seriously. And they're just putting their fucking boots on the necks of the Florida Panthers. It's not even entertaining to see this. Like, I thought this was going to be a competitive series. It's not been.
Not even close. I mean, let's take a look at some of the players on Florida, right, that we all expected to do something. You look at Huberdeau, right? You expected him to do something. He hasn't done anything. He's kind of got lost in the background. You barely hear his name. He's not really doing much. You have Giroux, which was a big deal when they got him, right? Oh, former Philadelphia captain, whatnot. He has experience. He has the grit. None of that showing up right now.
I got to add this, man. Everyone considers this guy as an elite player. Alexander Barkov has been a no-show in this series at all. He has 1 assist in 3 games. Do not tell me this man is an elite level center if he's not showing up in the key moments, man. Like,
Yep.
he's 26. He's in the prime of his career. This is his moment. You have Barkov. You have Giroux. You have so much talent on this Florida Panthers roster. You have Ekblad. Like, I mean, just it's frustrating to see how bad they are. And, like, mind you, Bobrovsky hasn't played amazing, but he hasn't played that bad. You know, I've seen Bobrovsky play way worse. And I don't
I
know.
mean,
It's disappointing.
mean, listen. At this point, right? You're one game away from just staying home, right? Because you're you're in Florida either way. Um,
Yep.
you may have to throw the old man and make him actually play like he was young again, and throw in a Joe Thornton, and just say, hey, go show this team how it's done, kind of thing. You know, we know he's been there. He's got the grit for it. Never, you know, with those Sharks teams, they were always good to compete. There was just teams that were, you know, a bit better, and they never got to shine or whatnot. But that doesn't take away from what he did in his career, right? Everywhere he's played, he's always been a force. Yeah, I know how old he is. He is ridiculously old, right?
He's yeah.
But I think that if he can show even a little bit of youth in his game, maybe it'll inspire the rest of the team. But I think this team is broken. I think they're done.
I
They're
mean,
cooked.
listen, like Joe Thornton has been sitting most this season. He's played 34 games, 5 goals, 5 assists for 10 points, a -10. Joe Thornton is nowhere near the superstar he used to be. Obviously, he's
Hmm.
42 years old now. But I agree. There's got to be something, man. Like, throw Thornton in there. Just throw a different look, man. Just throw
Change
something.
it up.
Change it up. Maybe try to get a game. I think maybe put Spencer Knight in net.
Yep.
You know, make these guys seem accountable, and give these boys a fight. But there's really not much else for me to say on this series because I'm just so disappointed. That just
Yeah,
it
I mean,
hasn't
Florida.
been great.
Yeah, the Panthers just didn't show up. I mean, that's just about, they showed up for game two, and when they didn't get it, I feel like just game three, they just it was like the Phoenix Suns in game seven,
Yeah.
in this playoffs, right? They were
Yeah.
there, but they weren't there. You know what I mean? And it's one of those. It's like they lost two at home. They're broken,
Mm.
and then they lost the first one in Tampa. You know, like now you got to go back into Tampa for another game and really say, we're here or congratulations. I
Yep.
think they're going to be saying congratulations.
Yeah, I agree. I see Tampa in four.
Yeah,
Tampa in
I see
four.
the sweep.
Yeah, I don't see Florida's just been so overpowered. Unless Jesus himself walks down on that ice surface, I don't see them winning. I just
Yeah,
don't.
man. I mean, somebody just. I'm in Tampa. Let me go buy them a broom and just deliver it
I
myself.
mean, listen,
So
Fajardo will be able to sign him to a 1-day contract. He could probably be better for Florida's defense than what you're seeing out there right now.
I definitely can. Trust me. Kucherov will be
so,
out for the rest of the playoffs. I promise that much.
so, all right, getting into a more competitive series in the Eastern
Ooh.
Conference, you have the Carolina Hurricanes and the New York Rangers. So let's go into it. The game one of the Rangers, Hurricanes won 2-1 in overtime. That was a good game. Game
Yes.
two, Hurricanes won 2-0 against the Rangers. And then game three, you had the Rangers squeaking out a victory 3-1 with a Mott backhand from his own end in an empty netter to make it 3-1. So it was a very, it wasn't really 3-1, it was 2-1 throughout the whole way.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So I have a lot to say about this series because I've been following this one pretty closely. What would you, before I get into some of my talk, what have you thought about this series as a whole there, Jarmo?
This series as a whole, or what do you mean?
What has stuck out to you the most as a Rangers fan or just as a hockey fan in general? Like, what's the one, like, if you were to kind of classify this series in one way or in a few words, what would it be?
Rangers build good players. And I'll explain this, right? You look at both teams, there's Rangers on both teams.
Yeah.
Um, you even look at the post interviews. Even the guys on Carolina, they give credit to who? The Rangers organization. Some of the legends that were on the Rangers as people to look up to, people that they learned from, where they really got their development. And that just shows that the Rangers are built different. right?
Yeah.
They don't succeed as much as we would like in, especially in the past or whatnot. But I think they're onto something. You take a look at Smith, right? Brendan Smith.
Mm.
Pretty much when he left Detroit, everybody thought pretty much his career's over. What is he really doing? What has he got left in the tank? New York took him, right? And he played great defense for them. He was always like the seventh defenseman. He'd come in out of the lineup, always provided a spark. But even when that was on its way out and he was no longer effective for us in that aspect, they're the ones that made him a forward. They're the ones that took the chance. They saw something there. Even if it was just for that season, they said, hey, this might work out for you, whatnot. And, I think that it's played a big role. Like all that, like that experience has played a big role in what he's done in these playoffs. Staying structured and then like reading the key moments defensively, especially that game winner that he had against the Rangers in that 2-0 victory.
Yeah.
Like, he said it. He's like, like he gives a lot of that credit to what he learned while he was in New York. It really made him find them, and it gave him opportunities to take a look at himself in different aspects or different lights.
So I got to give Brandon Smith credit because he went from being a forward, losing his forward game, going back to defense, accepting that role, playing as a seventh defenseman for the Rangers, right, in a rotational role. And he would even play forward some nights with the Rangers as well, if I remember correctly, to fill in a fourth line role. He's played serviceable as a number 6 defenseman for the Carolina Hurricanes. He's got a decent defensive presence. He'll throw the body when he needs to. Something I always respect, somebody that innovates and kind of always evolves over time to really kind of keep his NHL career prolonged. The one thing that has stood out to me is that Carolina is the better team by far.
Yep.
It's one of those things where I think with the Rangers, there's a mix of youth and inexperience that's costing them. Because when I look at Carolina, if I'm going to say pure talent versus talent, Rangers should have a far better talent pool. But I'm going to say better team versus team, it's Carolina. They have a better system defensively. They really kind of make you work to go the whole 200 feet. They have far better puck possession. Because if Game 3 stuck out to me, I did a live watch with my co-host, Dr. Evil. And the thing that stuck out to me is Carolina will make crisp passes, have a lot of puck possession, where a lot of these Ranger players would be, freak out and just like chop it from their neutral defensive end into the neutral zone. Right? They wouldn't take time to puck possess and make smart plays. And even when they're making passes, it was behind guys to in front of guys. They just look like they're playing nervous. And they look like they've never been there before, which a lot of these guys haven't. So I'm going to give them that saving grace. As of right now, though, Carolina, like this series would be 3-0 Carolina if Shesterkin did not exist. Like, let's not get that twisted. Shesterkin has
100%.
kept them in this series. He's the only reason these games are close at times because even in Game 3, he made an amazing flying poke check save, amazing sprawling save. It's like this guy has been an animal. It reminds me of a lot of, I would say, Tim Thomas-esque saves at times where he's just flopping at points just to get a body on it.
Yeah.
And, for my Bruins reference on this podcast. And I have to admire how well he is played. And I think he should be in conversation for the Hart Trophy. I know the playoffs don't have any effect on it, but it just goes to prove, like, Shesterkin covered for a lot of the flaws of the Rangers. And I'm going to put this, because we had this conversation last year with the podcast. Fox has been one of my biggest disappointments in this series. He has looked lost. He has looked terrible. I think he's having a nice growing up process here and realizes, like, hey, that little cute offensive stuff that, you want to be super low in the offensive zone and you're getting cooked. That can't happen. And, like, Gallant as a head coach should be making those adjustments. Like, hey, man, like, why is there so many 2-on-1s? Why is there so many odd man rushes? I don't know. Because you have Trouba and Fox at times at the same time going low in the offensive zone, and they just have a freewheel. And then the only reason, like I said, they're not going in every time. Is there's this man like I somewhat think is holy in some ways, Shesterkin, making unbelievable saves.
Hmm.
You know, it's just it's been
I definitely agree. No,
I've
I
been
agree.
I've been disappointed. Like the only guys I would say that has shown up and has looked good to me has been Zibanejad and Kreider's turned it on the last couple of games because I think Panarin has played like dog shit. I don't see it. I don't see it. He's too weak on the puck. He's made some pretty dumb passes. It's just I think Panarin's been awful, and I think Zibanejad and Kreider have been the driving force of the Rangers, like aside from Shesterkin, because everyone else on the ice, I just have not been impressed.
So I agree that I think Carolina is definitely the more polished team
Mm-hmm.
overall. They're definitely, they have their game pretty locked down, right? And that same note, the Rangers have a similar style, similar game, and you're right, they do have a lot of young kids, right? But those are the people who have impressed me the most amongst the Rangers, the kids. Um, they're stepping their game up and becoming men right in front of our eyes as they play. Um, in those two losses, uh, the best players have not been Zibanejad or Kreider. It's literally been the kids line, which is Hedo, Kako, and
Lafreniere,
Lafreniere. You know
yeah.
what I mean? And whether it's just being blank to how big of a moment they're in, or whether they just have that competitive drive that really takes them, or both. But honestly, Kreider and Zibanejad have been quite a disappointment for most of these playoffs. Um, they did show up, in those last games, 5, 6, and 7 in the first round against Pittsburgh. But they were kind of not there in the first two games against Carolina. I mean, they worked hard. You saw Zibanejad and Kreider work hard, but they were just not in sync. The kids were definitely working hard. They were in sync. They created more chances. They're the ones that are giving Carolina's defense a really hard time. And I don't know if it's maybe because they haven't seen how these kids have played together, or whether they weren't ready for them to
Mm.
have that level of uh, inspiration or fire going into these games. But they're the guys that made a difference. If you look at Game 3, they took that line and they split it up amongst three other lines. They left the fourth
Mm.
line alone, but they split them up into the other three lines, the other two lines, and equals three, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they all flourished. Everybody fed off of their energy. So there's something about those three players that now allows some of these superstars to feed off of. Like you said, Panarin, ghost. My man is a ghost. Even in that game where he scored the game winner, I didn't see him being too involved. He's there, but it's almost like he's getting lost. Either they're
Mm.
covering him well, or he isn't confident, or maybe he's nursing an injury. That's something that a lot of people have been saying, that he might be nursing an injury.
I mean, I hope
Either
he is.
way,
I hope he is because he's been a ghost out there. He's been,
yeah,
yeah.
100%. Again, Kreider, Zibanejad, they showed up in Game 3, but they were absent in Game 1 and 2. Kids line, separated or together, they've shown up for every single game this postseason. Let's talk about the defense for a second, all right? Defensively, Carolina's defense is extremely polished. They know how to move, they know how to play. Um, they have D'Angelo. D'Angelo's a very good quarterback. Even when he
Mm.
was on the Rangers, he was a very good quarterback on power plays, and he continues to do that. For me, being a Rangers fan, I was one of the guys that was really upset when we lost him, when we let him go. I did
Yeah, it
not
was.
like that move.
Yeah, it
You
was
know,
dumb. You guys got rid of him for nothing. Like it was,
you,
you waived him, got rid of him for nothing. I get the whole controversy, whatever, but
yep,
as a management man, you could have traded or kind of held on to him, just kept him in a seventh man rotation and traded him for something. It's just.
yeah.
But go ahead.
Yeah. Yes. So, but now you take a look at the Rangers' defense. Like I said, Carolina, they're already polished. They already have like their careers in place. Like they're kind of like all in that prime or just getting out of that prime. So they're like in the right place defensively. Whereas the Rangers, I mean, you take a look at their core. Who do you really have? You have Truba, right? That's the only real name outside of anybody who's a kid, right?
Yeah.
Because Fox is a kid. Keandre Miller's a kid.
Yep.
Schneider, which is like the most impressive one. He's a kid. And like they're growing. They're growing on the spot. They're learning what it means to really like lock somebody out or get made a fool of by some of these plays. And they just, if they continue to grow and they can do something now, this defensive core will be hands down in the top 5, no questions asked. If they can figure this out, because right now, Keandre Miller's finding his offensive game along with his big boy pants defensive game, right? Because he's a big
boy.
kid.
He's a big boy.
Yeah, even who was it? I spoke to one of the previous captains of the Rangers when he got drafted, and one of the things we both agreed on is like that kid's something special, and the captain told me, he was like, that he can be a Bufflin type player when Bufflin was relevant, right? Because he has the size, he has the skill, and now as you see him growing into his body, he's getting that man strength. He's going to be laying some guys out. He's going to be creating plays. He's going to be strong on the puck. Even in the playoffs, his strength and speed is what got us the win in Game 7, because he had that breakaway, and it led to a penalty and a power play. And a power play which we scored and won the series, right? So they're proving their worth, and they're growing along with the games that we have in hand here, and it's great to see, but we need them to grow just a little bit more.
Yeah, but I think it's a little bit at this point in the stage. I think there's just got to be a little bit more development, which I don't think is going to happen in the span of this series. I think for me, I'll push back a little bit. I think Zibanejad and Kreider have been, especially in Game 3, they were the only guys that contained and had offensive pressure. Towards the end, you saw Lafreniere, Hedl, and Kakko get together and start sustaining some pressure. I was actually impressed. Lafreniere had a snipe from the left face-off circle coming in on a drive on a 2-on-1 and almost nipped it top right corner off Ranta. And I think Lafreniere's got some tools. I actually had a discussion with my co-host about is Lafreniere a bust or not, which I don't think it's too early to call him a bust. But I will say him and Kakko need to take steps next season. Like, it's got to happen sooner or later. Like, you need to see the growth offensively, because as of right now, I just see them as second liners, if that.
Yeah.
But for me, like, Zibanejad and Kreider did their thing a little bit in Game 3. Offensive, and it's been hard. And listen, I watched Carolina in their last series. I'm not trying to just blame poor Rangers play, because a lot of that Carolina team is extremely good defensively. Jordan Staal is like a third line center, but he can shut down a top line because he's so big, so strong, so defensively responsible. You got Aho, he's got his skill set. And it's like you have a lot of good players on Carolina. You have the Reclamation Project Smith. You have Ranta in goal doing well, doing his thing when he's healthy. And I will say this: I am extremely impressed with Carolina, because me personally, I wasn't expecting them to be this good. Maybe I was undermining how good their regular season went, but you have Max Domi playing well. Kokanyemi, is he worth that contract? No, he's played okay.
Jarvis,
done his thing.
Jarvis has been killing it.
Yeah, he's been killing it. You have Cole, you have D'Angelo, you have Slavin. You have a lot of guys that have done well. And to the one thing I will talk about is D'Angelo. I think he's a prick. I think he's a crybaby bitch. But I will say this: he is talented. He's a great puck mover. He does his thing. Very good vision, makes plays. But if I'm the Rangers, I know he's temperamental, right?
Oh yeah, 100.
So you gotta pick at D'Angelo and get him to fucking blow up. But
I mean, if I was the Rangers on that same note, if I was the Rangers, I'd be sending Reeves to come send him a message early in this next game in game 4. Good solid hit. A couple of them get under his skin a little after the whistle play, and just really, really egg him on. Make him want to do more than he's supposed to, and
Yeah.
throw him off rhythm. So I agree with you on that.
Oh, there's one thing I gotta say before we kind of give our predictions for the rest of the series. Max Domi had an absolute bush league cross check at the end of the Rangers game.
Oh,
That was
disgusting.
It was disgusting, bro. You lost. You got you played a good game. You lost. There's no need to cross check a guy behind the whistle. And I was so glad Lindgren's like, oh, that how you want to do it? Just grabbed him around his neck and just started. Oh yeah, put him to the fucking ice surface. Started messing with him. Like, to me, that's bush league. That should
100%.
That should be a suspension. Because you don't want that to be the fucking way these series end, right? Like, if the game's over, it's over. You're a little rowdy, but you don't need to cross-check a guy with a second left in the game when you're down 3-1. Just absolute trash and garbage play right there. And I wanted Lindgren to just knock his block off.
I mean, that's disgusting 100%. Ty Domi has played very well in this series.
Max Domi. Max
Domi. Yes, his dad. I always mess up the two.
I do too.
Max Domi definitely has been playing well. So to see him revert to that means that we got under their skin. Yeah. Something in that game really got under their skin, whether it was something said, which also I do want to touch back on a previous series that we spoke about, about trash talking. But in this instance, right, what Domi did was definitely should call for a suspension. And the reason being is because they know that Lindgren's still nursing a lower body injury. And to cross-check down by his hip, now you're going after that injury. That isn't just let me chirp you, let me just start some, BS, some and get everybody flustered or whatever the case is. That was an intent to take him out of maybe next game, maybe throw a little more hurt on him, and that is uncalled for.
Absolutely, that's not approved. And you listen, I'm all about playoff hockey, fisticuffs, but that's just that's a trashy play, and that's just that shouldn't happen. That shouldn't be in the game. So I'll give my prediction this time because I let you have yours first last time. I think personally it is going to be Carolina in 5. I think Carolina has been the most dominant team out of this whole series. Even in Game 3 where they're lost, they were the better team by far. The Rangers are looking like they're playing scared. They don't know how to, possess the puck intelligently as of right now. I just think they're playing young. I mean, I'll say this. Their young guys have impressed me, but it seems like at times Hedo's getting nervous with the puck. There's no calming presence there, which I'm surprised. Panarin's been in a cup-winning organization, and then you have other guys that have had success elsewhere. And it's a little bit of a shame, but Carolina has been the most dominant teams in the series. So yeah, I'm going to say Carolina in 5, and it's going to be a low-scoring. It's going to be a low-scoring affair. But yeah, that's my outlook. So what are you thinking there, Jardo?
Obviously we know who I'm going to pick, right? Yeah. I definitely I'm going to go with Gallant. Gallant said this in his press conference yesterday, and Game 7, they got to win. They got to win one game, and it's going to have to be on their ice, and it's going to be Game 7, if anything. I think that the Rangers have heart. The problem is finding that heart outside of New York, right? That's been the struggle in this series so far. When they played Game 1 and 2, like I said, outside of the kids' line, nobody really had the heart to play. They were missing it, and they were just going through the basics. But when they got home, all the heart in the world. You know what I mean? So the home, it's going to be almost like the Boston series for this series, where the home team is going to be playing to their potential, and the other team is either going to match it or just lose for the day. You know what I mean? So I honestly think it'll be a game 7. Um, Rangers win.
All right. Well, so I have Canes in 5. He has the Rangers in 7. Absolutely no bias from him. Um, so so we will probably usually end these podcasts from these out if you put in question or comments from our previous episode. But thus being the beginning, the precipice, the first episode, we're probably just going to end it off here.
Well,
So,
well. There was one thing I did want to revert to. I just wanted your
all right.
opinion. How do you feel about to Chuck chirping Evander Kane about his money situation?
Absolutely fucking hilarious. I loved it. I loved every single bit of it. Like if you're gonna chirp as Evander Kane and you're gonna go back and forth with me, hey bro, don't talk to me, you broke motherfucker. Like I absolutely love it.
Yep,
I'm here for it. Like
yep,
that's the type of chirping I'm about. Like if you're
yep.
if it's that public and it's just it's just chef's kiss. I love it.
It's perfect. It's
It
perfect.
is.
I loved it. I appreciate. You know, um, I appreciate this type of chirping. You know what I mean? You're going at it. Anything goes. They could be your best friend after the series is done. But right now, whatever gets under your skin, and they know that for Evander Kane, that was such a big deal for what almost an entirety of a year and a half, 2 years almost, because they dabbled in it towards the end of last season, then all the beginning of this season, the off season, and then now here we are a year later, and he's recovering, but it's still a big thing. I think they're still going to court for that,
Yeah,
for
there.
some of his stuff. Yeah, so it's one of those things. Hey, listen, everything's on the table. So yeah, that's the type of chirping I am really looking forward to. As it gets
Absolutely.
chippier, love it.
I mean, listen. If when he gets no goals, people are like, hey, I guess you put no money on this game. So,
Yeah.
uh, so this is Captain Paul. That's my co-host Fajardo. We hope you enjoyed our first episode of the Locker Room. We really appreciate if you comment down below. Give us your thoughts and opinions of round 2 of the playoffs thus far. We'd be very interested to hear. So, I guess we will see you in the next episode. Later.